Discover the incredible moment a billionaire transforms a single mom's life after hearing her story. In the heart of a worn-down Midwestern town, beneath the oppressive weight of gray skies and industrial smoke, Sarah, a determined single mom, woke up to the shrill beeping of her alarm. Sunlight barely pierced through the cracks of her dilapidated home. She rubbed her tired eyes, knowing her day was a marathon of hustle. 2 jobs, one at a fast food joint, another at a diner. Each shift was filled with the buzzing of fryers and the clatter of dishes. Every dollar felt hard-earned and fleeting. Yet, for her 2 children, she would do it all over again. As her kids slept soundly, she thought of their dreams, brighter than the stars she could barely see. Would they have a better future? She longed for them to escape this life, to see the world beyond their town's faded storefronts. The thought ignited a fierce fire inside her, pushing her through another grueling day. Then, on a seemingly ordinary afternoon, without warning, her phone buzzed with a surprising invitation, a community event celebrating local heroes. It felt like a flicker of hope, a chance to highlight her struggle and resilience. Sarah envisioned standing on that stage, under the spotlight, telling her story. Maybe, just maybe, it would inspire others. Little did she know, it would also catch the eye of a reclusive billionaire named Jack. As Sarah prepared for the event, mixing excitement with anxiety, the venue buzzed with a lively crowd, showcasing both camaraderie and division. The air was thick with chatter, laughter, and clinking glasses, yet, amidst it all, the wealth disparity hissed like static in the background. Jack, with his own complicated past of poverty, felt a tug at his heart as he listened to Sarah's story replayed on the local news. It resonated with something deep within him, but then, tensions flared. As Sarah stood there, her heart racing, a familiar face from her past, the town's brash bar owner callously dismissed her, belittling her struggles. "You think you're a hero for flipping burgers?" he sneered, the crowd's laughter mixing with Sarah's palpable embarrassment. In that moment, Sarah's insecurities roared back to life, aching and raw. Jack, witnessing the injustice, charged into the fray, ready to defend her. "That's not fair," he exclaimed, his voice cutting through the laughter. The lively ambience shifted as what was once gentle chatter turned into a heated debate. Jack's privilege collided with Sarah's grit, exposing the chasm between them. The audience shifted uncomfortably, torn between admiration for Sarah and the status quo represented by the bar owner. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Just as Sarah believed hope was near, misunderstandings spiraled, pushing them apart. Jack's intentions, though noble, were clouded by his perspective, leaving Sarah feeling isolated and unseen in her fight for dignity. Jack stood there, caught between 2 worlds, reevaluating what truly mattered. Could he bridge the gap between his privilege and her struggles? And as Sarah walked away, heart heavy, and head spinning with doubt, the question floated in the air: could they find common ground, or would they remain shadows of each other in a town that seemed to eclipse their futures? Sarah stepped out of the community center into the crisp evening air, her heart pounding in her chest. The moment the doors closed behind her, the noise faded, leaving behind a painful silence. She took a deep breath, trying to clear her mind of the bar owner's mocking voice and Jack's passionate defense. She could still feel the heat in her cheeks from the humiliation. The world felt heavy, the weight of her worries pressing down like a dense fog. With each step, doubts surged anew. She had stood up there, with every intention of inspiring hope and maybe even understanding, only to have her efforts twisted into a punchline. As she walked down the cracked sidewalk, streetlights flickering like stars in the overwhelmed sky, she thought of her children. They deserved more than this. They deserved someone who could show them what resilience looks like, someone who could lift them out of this monotonous cycle of struggle. But how? The very thought would have sent her heart racing with anxiety if it hadn't already been racing from the night's events. Meanwhile, Jack remained inside, grappling with the aftermath of his confrontation. He hadn't meant to escalate the situation, but something about Sarah's story resonated deeply within him. The sharp contrast between their worlds hit him hard. The privilege he lived with felt like a gilded cage at that moment, trapping him far away from the reality Sarah faced every day. Jack's gaze followed her as she stepped into the expansive night, and he thought about how he could have handled it differently. What if he reached out instead of arguing? What if he understood her pain instead of trying to protect her from ridicule? The thought gnawed at him, sparking a determination to mend things, but he had no idea how. The next morning, in a haze of regret, Jack found himself in a coffee shop, flipping through pages filled with his thoughts, trying to figure out his next move. He glanced around, watching the people bustling about their lives, and felt something shift within him. What if he used his platform and resources to truly help someone who needed it? He wanted to make a difference, not just talk about it. With Sarah's story echoing in his mind, he pulled out his laptop, determined to find a way to reach her. Maybe he could start by creating a scholarship for single parents in the area. That thought took root and grew as the ideas flowed. But the realization hit him, this wasn't enough. He needed to connect with Sarah, not through charity but as equals, to learn from her firsthand. Back at her home, Sarah pieced together the remnants of her shattered confidence. She focused on her children, who provided her the strength to keep moving. Still, their laughter seemed distant that morning, overshadowed by her storm of emotions. Could she really rise above it all? Just as she reached her breaking point, a knock on the door interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Tentatively, she opened it to reveal Jack, standing there with sincerity radiating from him. He exhaled deeply, almost like he was preparing to step onto a stage. Would he finally understand? Would he listen? Or would this encounter push her further into the shadows? "I need to talk to you," Jack said, his expression earnest. Sarah felt a flicker of hope spark within her, but it was quickly snuffed out by the fear of being misunderstood again. What awaited them both on the other side of this awkward moment? Would they find a path forward together, or would the divide still linger, waiting to be uncovered? "Sarah, I know I messed up last night," Jack began, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. He searched her eyes, searching for some sign of the warmth he had felt before. "The way I reacted, it wasn't right. I let my privilege blind me. I didn't see you." Sarah stood frozen, her heart thudding painfully in her chest. She was caught off guard, grappling with a mix of emotions. Jack's words, though sincere, felt like a double-edged sword. On one side, there was an echo of hope, on the other, the fear of being vulnerable again. "I don't want your pity," she finally said, her voice trembling but firm. "I don't want charity, Jack. I'm trying to do this on my own for my kids." He nodded, looking both relieved and regretful. "I don't want to give you charity. I want to understand your story. The real story, not just the version I witnessed at the community center." He took a step closer, his sincerity palpable. "I want to learn from you. I want to help you however I can, no strings attached." Sarah's chest tightened. Every instinct told her to slam the door shut. She didn't trust easy. Her life had taught her that much. But another part of her, a part she had suppressed amidst her daily struggles, yearned for connection. Yearned for someone to see beyond her circumstances. "Why should I believe you?" she asked, wary yet curious. "Because it was wrong to laugh at you. It was wrong not to listen," Jack said, his voice deepening, full of raw honesty. "I'm ashamed of how I acted. But I want to change that. I want to use whatever I have to stand beside you." She hesitated, weighing her options, her gaze flickering to the little faces behind her, her children, her heart, her purpose. Could Jack truly help? Or was he just another well-meaning stranger who would only add to her burdens? In the silence that followed, Jack shifted his weight, anxiety flooding his eyes. "I've been thinking," he continued, "I could provide mentorship, or even help set up programs that could help other parents too. But first, I need to know what you need most. His earnestness was disarming. She found herself peering into his soul, reading the flickers of determination playing across his features. A moment of silence loomed as Sarah weighed every word, feeling every emotion wash over her. Finally, she took a breath, letting her walls drop just slightly. I want to show my kids that there's a way out, she finally admitted, her voice soft but resolute. I want them to believe that life can be better. If I can create something for them, a path they can walk towards hope that's it, he interrupted, his eyes lighting up. Whatever you need to turn that into reality, let us do it together. We can brainstorm ideas, get the community involved. His enthusiasm was contagious. The flicker of hope grew, igniting a warmth within her that she hadn't felt in ages. Maybe he wasn't just a stranger after all. Maybe this was an opportunity for something greater, but just as the moment seemed to crystallize, a memory rolled through her mind like a shadow. The laughter from the bar, the fear of being ridiculed again. Would she ever be able to rise above that? Jack, just before she could finish, her phone buzzed disruptively in her pocket. It was a text from a friend, reminding her of their overdue bills. Reality crashed into their moment. How am I supposed to believe this will all work out when my life is a mess? What can you really do to change that? Jack's expression faltered for the briefest moment, but determination quickly took hold again. Tell me everything. We'll take it one step at a time. I promise. For the first time, Sarah saw an unexpected ally within reach. But was she ready to cross that bridge? Their eyes locked, a storm of emotions swirling blindly between them. The air pulsed with promise yet mixed with uncertainty. Would this be the moment that changed everything, or would it once again slip through her fingers like sand? Let us figure it out together, Jack urged, his voice low but resolute. But deep down, Sarah could feel the weight of unanswered questions lurking still, ready to emerge. And as she took a shaky breath, ready to share what haunted her, one thought dominated her mind: what if stepping forward meant facing more than just her struggles? What if it meant confronting the fears she had buried deep within herself? Sarah, I believe in you, Jack said, his voice steady. She could tell he meant it, but the pool of her skepticism stayed deep and murky. The thought of trusting someone again, especially after last night, stirred a whirlwind in her gut. She glanced down at her phone, the screen lighting up with reminders of her mounting responsibilities. Rent was due soon. The kids needed new shoes for school. And hope. It felt so far away. Let us take it one step at a time, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But what if that step leads to another dead end? The thought slipped out before she could catch it, unraveling doubts she tried so hard to keep contained. Would this just be another cycle of disappointment? Jack shook his head, a firm determination behind his eyes. If we hit a wall, we'll find a way around it. You're not alone anymore. His response surprised her. An unexpected warmth crept over her, igniting something deep inside her that wanted to believe his words. My kids, she hesitated, the mention of them immediately squeezing her heart. I have to think about what's best for them. Every decision feels heavier since everything changed. Tell me about them, Jack encouraged gently. What do they love? What dreams do they have? A tightness squeezed Sarah's chest. Normally, she kept her fears bottled up, but something about the sincerity in his voice felt safe. Tina loves art. She spends hours sketching. And Daniel is obsessed with baseball. He thinks he'll be a star one day. Oh, that's awesome. Jack's face lit up as he talked. Art can be such a powerful outlet. Maybe we can get her into some classes. And I have connections for baseball camps. It could be a great way for Daniel to learn and have fun. Sarah felt a flutter of hope invade her thoughts. Could there really be a way to enhance their lives? This was the kind of support she'd never imagined could exist outside of her own two hands. Questions bubbled up like champagne. But what if they don't have what it takes? She whispered. What if they fail? Failure is just part of the journey, Jack replied, his eyes calm and honest. They'll learn so much along the way. They need someone to believe in them, just like they need you. Sometimes, we have to fall before we rise. As Sarah listened, she felt the shadow of her fears start to release its grip. Maybe she had been too focused on all the things that could go wrong. Perhaps this new way of thinking was exactly what she needed. Okay, she said finally, a soft smile breaking through the remnants of her doubts. Let us try. But it won't be easy. I wouldn't have it any other way, Jack replied with a confident grin. We'll make this work together. Besides, doing hard things is usually the most rewarding. At that moment, Sarah began to envision the possibilities, what it might look like for her family if what Jack said came true. She thought of Tina's drawings filling their home with color, and Daniel running on a field, not just in his dreams, but in reality. There was a lightness to the heaviness that she hadn't felt in years, but as they spoke, the insidious question nagged at her again: what if this was all just a pipe dream? What if trusting Jack led her to heartbreak instead of hope? Jack, what if you change your mind? The question slipped out, unexpected. What if you decide this isn't worth your time? He paused, the smile stiffening briefly before he replied. I'm here now. And I want to be here for the long haul. But I can't promise things will always be easy. Then what will you do when things get tough? I will be an ally, Jack stated, his tone unwavering. Count on me to be that person who lifts you when it feels impossible. A flicker of warmth filled her heart. His words felt like an anchor. But with hope came the question that pricked at her resolve even more: what would she do when the storm passed? In that brief silence, Sarah caught a glimpse of a pathway forward, a chance to rebuild, to dream, and maybe, just maybe, to trust again. But would she have the courage to step onto that path? Jack reached toward her, ready to bridge the gap. What was resting in her heart was shifting, and she had to ask herself one last question: was she ready to embrace this change, or would fear keep her shackled to the past? As those thoughts circled in her mind, she felt the excitement of the unknown nudging at her. Would she take that leap of faith, even when it was scary? The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the small apartment. Sarah could hear the faint sounds of neighborhood children laughing outside. The noise tugged at her heart, reminding her of simpler times before everything had turned upside down. As she leaned back against the worn-out couch, Jack's words echoed in her mind. Together, she whispered to herself, testing the word. It felt strange yet comforting. The thought of not being alone was foreign, yet the idea warmed her spirit like a cozy blanket. Was it really possible to start fresh? Deciding to embrace this flicker of hope, Sarah rose and walked to her kitchen. She started another pot of coffee, the familiar routine a soothing ritual. With each step, she committed to thinking about the future, rather than dwelling on her long list of worries. It was time to shift the narrative for her children, for herself. Let them shine, she murmured aloud, her reflection in the kitchen window echoing the determination in her voice. She daydreamed about Tina creating beautiful artwork, her pieces displayed proudly on the walls. Daniel, with his cap tipped backward, running after a baseball, carefree and filled with joy. As she poured her coffee, her thoughts danced around the possibilities of what could happen if she allowed opportunities to arise. But like a storm cloud threatening to darken her perspective, doubt loomed at the edges. Just then, her phone buzzed, breaking her train of thought. A message from Jack lit up the screen, a simple encouragement. You got this, Sarah. Let us meet tomorrow to talk more about Tina and Daniel's classes. Excited to help them find what they love. His support was tangible, even through a text. A thread of warmth shot through her, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like there might be a solution at the end of this tangled road. She allowed herself a small smile, picturing the three of them finding their way together. Later that night, as she tucked her kids into bed, she felt a wave of tenderness. Their faces were calm, peaceful as they drifted into dreams. She brushed a stray hair from Tina's forehead and planted a soft kiss on Daniel's cheek. What if this was the pivotal moment for all of them? She could see the changes bubbling up, a shift not only in their circumstances but in the very fabric of their lives. They could build new dreams together, supported by someone who genuinely wanted to help, but just as she felt this surge of hope, the walls of anxiety crept back in. Sarah sat on the edge of Daniel's bed, her heart a blend of excitement and fear. What if she was setting herself up for disappointment? What if trusting Jack ended up fracturing her fragile reality? Her mind raced with scenarios, each darker than the last. Driven by that fear, she felt a pull to retreat, to protect her children from another potential heartbreak. Sighing, she rose to leave the room, but stopped cold in her tracks. "Mom." Tina's sleepy voice broke the silence, disarming her turmoil. "Can you stay a bit longer?" Without thinking, Sarah climbed back into the small chair placed at the foot of her daughter's bed. "Of course, sweetheart. Can you tell me a story?" Tina asked, her eyes heavy with sleep. In that moment, everything else faded away. "Once upon a time," Sarah began, her voice gentle, weaving together a tale of courage, adventure, and new beginnings. As she spoke, something inside her began to transform. Hope was creeping in, inch by inch. What would it take to hold on to this feeling? As she finished the story, Tina's eyes fluttered closed, and Sarah glanced down at the little girl who represented everything worth fighting for. Would she really allow fear to dictate their future? Jack was willing to help, willing to be the ally she desperately needed. But what if accepting his help brought challenges she hadn't anticipated? That thought stirred deep within her, a pulsating pressure like a heart beating faster in anticipation of what came next. With the evening darkness wrapping around her like a cloak, Sarah found herself at the edge of a decision. Would she dare to accept the help being offered, or would she let fear chart their path? The air was thick with uncertainty, but perhaps the unknown was not just something to dread. Maybe, just maybe, it was a doorway to everything she had ever dreamed for her family. Could she push through that door? Tomorrow held the potential for something new, something magnificent. And as she lay in bed, thoughts racing, one question intertwined with hope lingered in the air: what if stepping into that unknown was the very thing that changed everything? When morning arrived, Sarah woke to the soft rays of sunlight filtering through the curtains. The warmth kissed her cheeks, pulling her from sleep's grasp. As she blinked away the remnants of dreams, a wave of anticipation washed over her. Today was different. It felt like the first page of a new chapter. She shuffled to the kitchen, where the comforting aroma of coffee stirred her senses. The ritual was grounding, a small act of normalcy before the day unfolded. Today, she would meet Jack. The thought filled her with both excitement and trepidation. What if this meeting would change everything? As she poured her coffee, her eyes settled on the blank wall where Tina's artwork would eventually hang. The morning silence was punctuated only by the soft gurgle of the coffee machine. Sarah took a sip, closing her eyes for a brief moment, imagining her children's laughter echoing through happy, bright rooms filled with color and creativity. With her heart set, she began tidying up the living room, creating a space that felt ready to welcome new possibilities. Daniel's baseball gear lay scattered on the floor, a reminder of his hopes to play in the big leagues one day. Tina's paints and brushes were set out on the small table, awaiting inspiration. Could today be the beginning of a journey toward those dreams? She glanced at the clock. It was still early. There was time. With determination, she decided to take a leap. She would step outside, walk to the park, and prepare herself for what was to come. Fresh air could clear her rolling thoughts, and moving her body would help ease the fluttering in her chest. As she walked through the neighborhood, the sun rose higher, casting a golden hue over everything in its path. Children hurried to school, their backpacks bouncing behind them, while parents rushed by, cups of coffee in hand. Sarah smiled at a few familiar faces, nodding and waving as she carved her way through the bustling morning. Each interaction felt like a small thread weaving her back into the fabric of community. When she reached the park, she found a bench near the playground. It was perfect. Watching the little ones run and laugh filled her with a sense of belonging. She pulled out her phone, the screen lit up with a message from Jack. "Can't wait to see you. I'll be there in a bit." His enthusiasm resonated with her. She needed it more than he realized. Taking a deep breath, Sarah focused on the sounds around her. Children's giggles floated in the air as mothers chatted nearby. For too long, she had been the spectator in her own life. Today, she felt prepared to take action, to embrace what Jack had to offer. As the minutes passed, the thrill and nerves twisted in her stomach. What would he say? Would he really be able to guide her through this tangled mess? Her heart raced with possibilities, each heartbeat echoing her conflicting feelings about the unknown. Just then, she spotted Jack approaching. He was walking with that same easy confidence, his smile bright and genuine as he waved. She felt herself relax slightly, reminded of why she had agreed to meet him in the first place. Jack believed in shared dreams, in the power of community, in the strength born from collaboration. "Hey, Sarah!" he called out as he reached her. The warmth in his voice melted any lingering tension. "How are you feeling?" "Excited," she replied honestly, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "A little nervous too." "That's normal," he assured her, taking a seat beside her. "It's a big step, but we'll figure this out together." As they talked, Sarah began to articulate her dreams for Tina and Daniel, creating a vivid picture of the future she envisioned. For the first time in a long while, it felt good to voice her hopes. Jack listened intently, nodding and offering feedback, and for every fear she laid bare, he countered it with possibilities, but in the back of her mind, doubt kept tapping lightly on her shoulder. What if this didn't turn out as she hoped? What if their excitement fizzled out, leaving her back at square one, just as those worries began to creep? Jack reached for her hand, an unexpected gesture that sent a jolt of energy through her. "Look, trusting each other is part of this. Let's make a promise to be honest and transparent moving forward. I believe in this, and I believe in you." His sincerity washed over her, breaking through the barriers she had built around herself. She took a deep breath, feeling a flicker of courage replace the shadows of doubt. "Okay," she whispered, feeling a newfound resolve build within her. "Let's do this." As they began to map out the next steps, Sarah's heart swelled with a mix of hope and fear. Would their collaboration truly lead to the brighter future she envisioned for her children? And just as she felt herself leaning into this new partnership, a sudden voice broke through the comforting bubble they had wrapped themselves in. A young girl from the playground, no older than 5, shouted, "Mommy! Look at me!" The laughter that erupted from her family turned Sarah's soul with light, igniting an even deeper yearning within her to protect that same joy for her own kids. What challenges lay ahead? Would the road truly be as smooth as she hoped? That question lingered between them like a tether, as both excitement and uncertainty swirled in the air. But in that moment, Sarah realized it wasn't just about the future she desired, it was about taking the leap together, one day at a time. One fear melted away as hope took its place. But as they began to plan, another thought seeped in. What if trusting Jack meant confronting challenges deeper than she had ever imagined? As Jack and Sarah sat side by side, a gentle breeze danced through the park, rustling the leaves overhead. The laughter from the playground seemed to drift around them like a soft cloud, filling the space with warmth. It was easy to get lost in the sound, but Sarah felt the weight of the moment settle heavily on her shoulders. Jack's presence radiated encouragement, yet deep inside her, uncertainty simmered. "So, about the community center," Jack began, glancing at her as he spoke. "What if we start by organizing workshops for kids? Art for Tina and baseball clinics for Daniel?" His eyes sparkled with ideas. Sarah nodded, envisioning the possibilities. "That could work, but what if we don't have enough resources? I mean, who would even sign up? People are always looking for fun activities for their kids. We just need to spread the word." Jack replied, his enthusiasm infectious. He leaned forward, the sunlight catching his smile. "What's the worst that can happen? We try, we learn, and we try again. Right? But what if she hesitated, glancing down? What if nobody comes? What if it fails? Jack's hand tightened reassuringly around hers. Sarah, you've got to let that fear go. Failure isn't the end. It's how we grow. She took a deep breath, drawing strength from his unwavering confidence. Okay, let us say we do this. How do we get started? Let us brainstorm. We can create flyers, spread them around local schools, and even use social media. We'll ask friends, neighbors, anyone who might help. His excitement felt contagious, igniting a spark inside her, yet the shadows of doubt flickered just out of sight. As they sketched plans in the soft dirt of the park, her vision grew clearer: colorful workshops, teamwork, fun. In her mind, she could see Daniel swinging his bat with pride while Tina painted a mural, the children all laughing together. Just then, the young girl from the playground ran up to them, breathless with joy. Look! I made a flower. She held up a handmade bloom from a handful of grass and dandelions, its vibrant yellow seeming to proclaim innocence and joy. That's beautiful! Sarah exclaimed, touched by the girl's energy. For a moment, she was reminded of her own children, their laughter, their creativity. As the girl danced away, the imagery of her children being part of something larger, a community blossoming around them, took her breath away. Chasing dreams with Jack suddenly felt tangible, but as the excitement lingered, a nagging thought crept in again. What if this partnership created complications? Would opening up to Jack and his ideas lead to vulnerabilities she hadn't considered before? Before she could voice her concern, Jack spoke again. Sarah. This is our moment. We won't just build activities, we'll build a foundation for the future. His gaze caught hers, filled with sincerity. You're not just a participant in this. You're a leader in your children's lives. That word leader echoed in her mind. She had always viewed herself as a caretaker, but maybe there was a fire within her to forge ahead. Could she really do this? Yes. Let us do it. She said suddenly, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. Jack grinned, and together they plunged into the planning, ideas spilling out like paint on canvas, vibrant and messy, yet, even in that moment of unity, her heart beat heavily with unspoken fears. The landscape of their plans was exciting, but it was still uncharted territory. What unseen challenges loomed ahead? What if their dreams collided with realities she wasn't prepared to face? As they continued to sketch, she felt courage warring with uncertainty, each competing for space within her thoughts. Would this new venture illuminate her family's path, or would it lead to twists she couldn't navigate? With each new idea that flowed between them, Sarah grasped tightly at the fraying edges of her resolve. The promise of the future hung before her, shimmering with possibility, but what would it demand from her? Would the leap she was prepared to take deliver the change she desperately sought? The wind picked up, swirling around them, and as Jack reached for her hand again, Sarah felt both fear and excitement bubbling within her. What awaited them on the road ahead? With the sun beginning its descent, casting long shadows across the park, Sarah felt a mix of hope and apprehension swirling inside her. She and Jack were entangled in their plans, their laughter blending with the evening sounds of life surrounding them. Despite the warmth of the moment, uncertainty teased at the edges of her excitement. Let's not just think small, Jack said, drawing her attention back. We could approach local businesses for sponsorships. Maybe even get a few donations for supplies. Think of how much we could offer. His confidence was like a bright flame igniting her imagination. She could almost visualize the center filled with children's laughter, paint splatters marking the concrete, and the echo of baseball bats meeting balls. Yet still, the cautionary voice in her head urged her to pause. But what if we don't get enough sponsors? I mean, what if we end up spending more than we can handle? It could all fall apart before it even begins. Jack paused, his brows knitted together as he considered her concerns. Sarah, what if we fail? Sure, that's a possibility. But, What if we succeed? What if we bring the community together in a way it hasn't been in years? That's something worth shooting for, right? His words hung in the air, a challenge and an invitation all at once. She could see it clearly, the workshops, laughter, friendships blossoming. A sense of belonging. But beneath that image also lay her fears, family dynamics shifting, new expectations to navigate, and burdens of initiative that felt heavier than they should. After a moment, Sarah took a breath. You really believe this can work, don't you? Jack nodded earnestly. I do. I think you underestimate how much your voice matters in this. People will rally behind something they believe in, especially if you're at the helm. His sincerity ignited a flicker deep within her. Maybe he was right. She could be a leader. She could gather people together, forge connections, and light the way. Okay, she said finally. Let us really go for it. Let's make this center a place where families can thrive and kids can find their passions. Jack beamed at her acceptance. Yes. We can set up a meeting next week to brainstorm further and start a plan of action. We need to get everyone on board. The excitement in his voice was contagious, washing over her like a warm wave. But still, beneath the surface, a current of anxiety tugged at her heart, making her pulse quicken. As they discussed potential dates, her mind flitted back to her children and how this initiative would impact them. No longer just about the community, it was also about her family embracing change. How would they adapt to her newfound role? Would they support her, or would it become a point of tension? Suddenly, Jack said, what about the feedback from the kids? You want this to be for them, right? Let us involve them in the first steps. Sarah nodded slowly. Good idea. Their excitement could help bring in others. Just then, a shriek of joy emerged from nearby. A boy had just hit a home run in a game, sending cheers rippling across the park. The energy was electric, and Sarah couldn't help but smile at the sight. See? Jack said, grinning. That's the kind of spirit we want to cultivate. The joy, the community coming together. Your kids will love participating in this. His words flickered with promise, and she found herself drawn to the idea. It could be the spark her family needed. Creating a hub of happiness and growth could transform not just the neighborhood, but her home too. Yet as they created a rough timeline, Sarah felt the weight of the journey start to shift with every outline they added. Each line of the plan honed the intimidating clarity of what lay ahead, and from deep within her, another fear surfaced. How would she handle setbacks when they inevitably came? As the sun dipped below the horizon, a sense of resolve settled around Sarah. With the mingling doubt still present, a fire ignited in her soul. This was a leap into the unknown, but perhaps it was a leap she was ready for. Jack squeezed her hand gently, grounding her in the moment. Together, we'll navigate through everything. You won't be alone in this fight. What if she whispered, her voice barely audible against the fading light? What if I can't match up to expectations? Mine, and everyone else's? Then we'll learn together. That's part of the journey too, he replied sincerely. As the sky transitioned to deep purple, Sarah closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. There it was again, that whisper of possibility. But the flutter of fear loomed, ready to push her back. How would she truly manage if the world they built together reflected every shadow and challenge she feared? What if she stumbled? Would Jack still be there? The wind rustled the leaves, carrying her questions further into the night. In that moment, she realized this journey was about much more than the workshops, and the uncertainty held a promise too delicate yet shimmering with hope. As darkness enveloped the park, the first star appeared, twinkling above, and a new chapter began to unfold before her. But as they stood together planning the future, Sarah felt a truth emerge in her heart. What if this was only the beginning? The following week arrived faster than Sarah had anticipated. With each passing day, she found herself deep in thought, flipping through notes and brainstorming ideas for the community center. Jack was steadfast by her side, Fired up with enthusiasm as they set their plans in motion, she had decided to come up with a list of potential activities for the center, involving everything from art workshops to sports training. But in between, her mind frequently wandered back to her family. How could she involve her kids? Would they share in her excitement, or would they be wary of her new path? Sarah stood in her kitchen, the smell of popcorn wafting through the air as she prepared for a family movie night. Her children were squabbling playfully over which movie to watch, their laughter igniting warmth in her chest. As they settled onto the couch, she felt a surge of determination. Maybe this was the perfect opportunity to include them in her plans. "Hey, guys," she began, her voice steady but soft. "You know how I've been working on this community center project? I think you'd both love to be a part of it." Her son, Max, paused mid-bite of popcorn, his eyes lighting up with curiosity. "Like what? Can we play games there?" "Yes. Exactly." Sarah leaned in closer, excitement bubbling. "And I was thinking you could help me come up with ideas for activities. We want to make it fun for kids just like you." Her daughter, Lily, perked up. "Can we do art? I want to make glittery crafts." "Yes." "And what about sports, Max?" Sarah encouraged, her heart swelling at their eagerness. Max grinned, tossing the last popcorn kernel into his mouth. "Yeah. We should have basketball, and maybe a big sandbox for playing." The conversation flowed, each suggestion boosting Sarah's spirits further. They laughed and brainstormed, and in that moment, the burdens on Sarah's heart began to lighten. This wasn't just her initiative, it felt shared, alive, vibrant. Later that evening, as she reviewed their ideas, the weight of fear threatened to creep back in. Would the community embrace their vision? Would the kids love what they created? She picked up her phone, glancing at Jack's messages filled with encouragement for their upcoming meeting. As she typed back, a new message blinking on her screen caught her attention. It was from her neighbor, Nora. "Hey, heard about the center. Excited to see what you come up with. Let us meet up soon." Her heart raced at the sudden thought. It wasn't just her and Jack anymore. People were noticing. They were investing in the idea. Maybe this could become something bigger than she had imagined. "Sarah, can we tell our friends about the center?" Lily's small voice interrupted her train of thought. "Of course. Sharing is the best part," she replied, the corners of her mouth curling into a smile. As the children scampered off to gather their toys, a deep sense of connection flourished within her. The unpredictability of their endeavor excited her. She could feel the winds of change brushing against her face, wrapping around her like a warm hug, but as the night grew deeper, shadows crept back in. Was her idea truly transformational? What if it didn't resonate with others? What if they struggled to get support? The voice of doubt was relentless, whispering that this path could lead to failure, yet, at the same time, another voice emerged, one of courage, reminding her that every risk she took could lead to growth. With Jack, her children, and newfound support, she wasn't alone in this quest. Then she remembered Jack's words, "What if we succeed?" That flicker of hope sparked anew. The following day also loomed large in her mind. The community meeting was scheduled, and with it, an opportunity to ignite that spark. But what would she say? What if she couldn't inspire others the way Jack inspired her? As she settled into bed that night, staring at the ceiling, Sarah understood the stakes were high, and the fear was real. But in the pit of her stomach, she felt a swell of readiness. The glimmer of possibility felt palpable alongside her worry. She whispered into the dark, "What if this is the moment that changes everything?" As the moonlight filtered through the window, Sarah knew one thing for certain: the morning would bring entirely new challenges. Would they step together as a community, or would the fears of one hold them back? Their next move would reveal much. The morning light streamed into Sarah's window, embracing her in its warmth. Today was an important day. She could feel it in her bones. Heart racing, she quickly dressed and checked on the kids. They were still sleeping, their faces displaying peaceful dreams that Sarah longed for them to hold on to forever. As she brewed her coffee, her mind whirled with thoughts of the upcoming community meeting. Would people resonate with her and Jack's ideas? Would they rally behind the vision for a community center that could spark change? Anxiety nibbled at her resolve, mingling with hope. After a hurried breakfast, she gathered the kids, bursting through her nervousness with enthusiasm. Guess what, guys? Today we're going to share our ideas with the neighbors. Max's eyes widened. Will they like it? Of course. And we'll get to hear what they think too. How exciting is that? Lily clapped her hands, her earlier eagerness resurfacing. I can make a poster. Absolutely. Sarah said, a smile stretching across her face. As they finished getting ready, Sarah felt a shift within her. The fears that had once loomed large began to shrink. Her kids believed in this dream, and maybe, just maybe, so could she. When she arrived at the community center, she was greeted by the vibrant chatter of neighbors' familiar faces, smiling warmly. Jack stood by the makeshift podium, his demeanor calm yet vibrant. Seeing him made her heart swell with validation. Hey, Sarah. He called, walking over to her. You ready to do this? I think so, she replied, her voice steady. I have a good feeling. Together, they set up their presentation space. The room filled gradually, and soon a mix of excitement and trepidation buzzed in the air. They had created flyers showcasing the vision for a community center filled with workshops, art classes, and sports clinics designed for children and families. As Sarah began to speak, her voice trembled slightly. Thank you for being here, everyone. This has been a dream of mine, a place where our kids can learn and play, where we can come together as a community. Her eyes scanned the room, taking in the faces of her neighbors, some nodding in agreement. With the help of my kids, we've brainstormed ideas, she continued, feeling a swell of pride. And with Jack's support, we believe we can turn this dream into reality. Laughter bubbled from the back as Lily and Max waved their colorful poster. The room erupted in cheers, and Sarah felt the warmth fill the air. I want to hear your ideas. How can we make this center feel like home? Sarah's heart raced as people began stepping forward, eager to voice their thoughts. Suggestions flowed like a river, each idea sparking enthusiasm. Someone proposed a potluck to gather the community for a day of fun. Others talked about placing a library for children to encourage reading. As the discussions unfolded, fear transformed into exhilaration. They began to make plans, bonding over shared dreams of creating a safe haven for families. The initial worries faded, yielding to collective determination. Jack's voice cut through the room. This is just the beginning, everyone. We have resources, vision, but most importantly a community ready to rise together. Cheers erupted. Sarah beamed at him. In that moment, she knew they could change their reality. After the meeting, smiles and laughter lingered in the air. Sarah felt buoyant, a weight lifted from her shoulders. She turned to Jack, who stood not far away, engaging with other attendees. The struggle, the humiliation from the past, and previous doubts melted away. Thank you, she said, approaching him. I didn't do anything you didn't already have in you, Jack replied, his smile genuine. You believe in me, she whispered, finally feeling the truth wash over her. And I will keep believing in you. Together, we'll keep pushing forward. Let today mark a turning point for all of us, he said, his eyes sparkling with promise. At that moment, Sarah understood, trust challenging her fears didn't come from what others thought but rather how she believed in herself. As they walked out, kids ran around outside, and laughter floated in the air, offering a soundtrack to fresh beginnings. This was their chance, a vision set in motion. That evening, as she tucked her children into bed, she brushed her fingers across their cheeks, a touch of warmth, an invisible promise. You both inspire me every day, she whispered. Are we going to have our center? Max asked sleepily. Yes, she said, her heart bursting with warmth. We're going to make it happen. Together. As she closed the door, Sarah knew she had stepped into a new chapter, where doubt took a back seat to determination. The future held uncertainty, but for the first time, she felt ready to meet it head-on, surrounded by her community, her children, and an unlikely ally who had become a friend. We will rise together, she whispered, embracing hope's gentle glow. This was just the beginning. If this story touched your heart, you need to subscribe now, so you won't miss any of our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread joy to even more hearts. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about the journey so far. And don't wait not even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this message about transformation and hope. Your support means everything.